The elimination diet is critical when you are battling mold illness and trying to overcome mycotoxin illness. I'm going to explain why in this video. First, let me say I'm not a medical doctor. It's not medical advice. It's based on my 22 years of experience healing myself, my daughter, working with other clients. Back to the topic here. Why would you want to use the elimination diet? What's the point of it? And what is the elimination diet in the first place? Elimination diet is the idea that you go with the simplest foods that have the lowest allergy potential for a period of 14 to 21 days. And then as you go ahead and introduce new foods one at a time, your body will tell you if you're having a reaction or having some type of issue with that food. So the elimination diet allows you to see if your foods are actually aggravating your symptoms or not. But the problem is when you eat a food every day that you're sensitive to, you stop having a reaction to that food that's noticeable. You just have these generalized reactions that you don't associate with the food, and then you get tricked by the food. So this is why the elimination diet is so important. You just got to start off, ideally, with fruits, vegetables, rice, potatoes, lentils, beans, small amounts of meat every other day or every few days. This is the basics of the elimination diet. Personally, I would start without the meat myself, and I would start without the beans, myself. But we would do the fruit, the vegetables, the rice, potatoes, your oils, your salt, keeping it real simple for at least 5 to 10 days, Get your body off of that protein overload, that fat overload, etc. So then we would, as we do the elimination diet, we'll start to notice what foods are triggering us and which ones are not. So when you have mycotoxin illness, the problem is you're typically not breaking down proteins well, and you're also not breaking down heavy fats well, right? And if that's the case, then you have to be observant of the meat that you're eating, and you have to be observant of how much fat you're using at your meals, and if this affects your digestion, affects your symptoms, etc. Also, when you're dealing with mold illness or mycotoxin illness, you have to be very aware of complex proteins, foods that have complex proteins in them. This is things like oats, dairy, gluten, nuts, seeds, processed foods, eggs, things like that. The processed foods specifically have food additives, food preservatives. All the other ones have complex proteins, but both of these can aggravate the mast cells and cause you to have an inflammatory reaction that makes your mycotoxin illness symptoms worse. The main problem when you have mycotoxin illness is that you have these overactive mast cells that are just going crazy because you're being exposed consistently to mycotoxins. So anything that comes into your body, they can create a reaction to. So this is why you have to be able to eliminate these key foods if you want to get out of this flare-up, this ongoing flare-up. And once again, these are eggs, dairy, nuts, seeds, oats, gluten, the processed food, the nuts and seeds, if I didn't say that already. And once you do that, then you could start to really get the flare down. You start focusing on eating the foods like the fruits, vegetables, rice, potatoes, beans, lentils, small amounts of meat here and there, or fish, but not every single day in large amounts. And that helps you identify what's actually causing the flares. What are causing the flares? Because the most important thing when you got mold illness is you got to not be eating things that flare you. If you're eating things that flare you, you're going to be having these exaggerated symptoms. You're going to be like, oh man, I'm going up and down. I feel horrible throughout the day and my symptoms are extreme. And oh my God, it's what I see with clients when they have too many ingredients at a meal. If they eat any of the foods I listed there in excess, or if they eat them too frequently, start to have reactions to these things if your mold illness is bad enough. And the key to being able to overcome mold illness is you got to create a diet that's a solid foundation where your mast cells are not being aggravated. They're not being triggered by something you're consuming, right? Because if we're being triggered by something we're consuming and inhaling, then we got this domino effect that starts, and it's hard to stop that. So if we stop being triggered by what we're eating, then we're able to see how much we're being triggered by what we're inhaling or what we're taking in our supplements, right? First thing I do typically with clients is we get them on the simplest diet possible that they're willing to do. We move in that direction. We try to get them on the fewest amount of supplements or no supplements from the beginning. Make sure that we're not being triggered by something we're already doing. That's the key when you're dealing with the mast cells. If you trigger them, you're going to keep picking the scab and not be able to heal. So thanks for watching, everybody. The elimination diet is absolutely critical if you want to overcome mast cell activation and mold illness and mycotoxin illness. You got to start with the elimination diet. You got to get your safe foods in place. You got to stick with that when you're not flaring. If you want to try to add foods in, feel free, but I wouldn't do that until you're symptom-free in my experience. Go to my website, endsickness.org. I got hundreds of articles, hundreds of videos in there teaching you how to heal yourself. Take care.